Up until recently, until the past 100 years or so, the concept of God was definitely somewhere over the rainbow, up in the nebulous heavens we read about in Sunday school, and separate from man. God was some fatherly figure sporting a white beard and flowing robes. His staff, it was reported, unleashed any varied and sundry versions of wrath upon us, and he sat in judgment far above us and out of our tangible reach. Humankind's need for purpose and meaning, our desire for a greater spiritual destiny, has not changed much throughout history. However, the idea of religious faith and how it operates in our lives has changed quite a bit. Chalk it up to the Industrial Revolution, the Technological Revolution, or a general cultural globalization, but religion in America is changing. The question remains, however, is religion changing, or is what we need religion to be changing?
Religion tends to answer the three big unanswerable questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? And where are we going? That is, what is our origin? What is our purpose? And where ultimately are we headed with all this? These are the big questions that are kind of beyond the scope of science, but they're very important questions that we have to make some decisions on in order to live out our lives. And religion steps in to serve the purpose of providing a meaningful framework in which to deal with those questions and answer them and provide us with some answers that we can live by until we move on.
Today, for many, conventional religious practice is enough to answer these great unanswerable questions. Faith in an afterlife and in an omniscient and omnipresent being remains a sufficient explanation for the nature of man, our existence, and our fundamental purpose. But for many in the United States, traditional religious practice is not enough to sate this curiosity, and the science of today that has introduced reason into what was once a matter of faith has created a need for a new religion, one that joins the spiritual profundity of religion with the natural laws of science, laws that for many have become difficult to dispute.
We are all at different levels, at different stages of our enlightenment, or ascension as some people call it, and it's okay wherever, what stage you're in right now.
Consciousness is more than just the biochemistry of brain cells carrying out metabolic function. It seems to be much more of a broader energy field.
I think that we are this very holographic form. And so everything that we're seeing in terms of what is really being created outside of us first began within us. So it's completely integrated. And I see these patterns repeating themselves over and over and over again.
Expositions like this one are a common occurrence in the U.S. today, as is the fascination with the law of attraction. Now, the law of attraction experienced a resurgence in popularity with the release of Rhonda Byrne's film The Secret in March of 2006, later to be followed up by the New York Times best-selling book of the same title. But The Secret is not a secret, nor is it new.
The particular mind-oriented religions grew up in the 1880s, and they have been with us since then. The Secret is actually based upon a book that was written in the 1920s. We think of religious science, Unity's School of Christianity, the Divine Science Movement. These are all churches, large national organizations that have perpetuated this kind of thought now for a century or more.
The notion of using mind to attract the life you want has its roots in late 19th century literature, and many have developed entire philosophies on the law of attraction. One such philosopher is Ernest Holmes, founder of the religious science movement and the science of mind, one among several spiritual ideals that sprung from the New Thought movement of the mid-20th century.
This evening, I am going to talk to you about a power for good in the universe, greater than you are, greater than I am, greater than all of us.
Holmes believed that God expressed itself through the manifestations of mankind. In other words, science of mind promulgates the notion that mankind attracts everything or manifests everything vis-a-vis the law of attraction. Today, science of mind churches continue to spring up throughout Los Angeles, providing what has become for some an oasis from their conventional religious upbringing. For others, it is an approach to spirituality that is both empowering and inclusive. Spirit Works Center, located in Burbank, California, is one such spiritual hub, a space for manifestors to gather and support each other. At the heart of the center is Reverend Harry Moses, a compelling and charismatic man struck with the convictions of Ernest Holmes' teachings.
You know, as I was working on this week, have you ever heard of the philosopher Ernest Holmes? For most people, I think, who come into a conscious spiritual life, most is a big category, but I think it's nonetheless true. Most people enter into a conscious spiritual life out of desperation. Very few people enter in out of inspiration. They're both valid ways to find truth, but most people find truth through desperation. In my case, I was a very, very healthy, happy young man, successful even in my young 20s and late teens, and all of a sudden I got struck with a disease that was not foreseen and nobody knew, and highly unusual for a young person. And the prognosis was not good.
Told he would never walk again by doctors, Moses soon met a man who would completely change the course of his life forever. Dr. Hart, Science of Mind minister, visited Moses while in the hospital. It was there that Moses had what he strongly identifies as a spiritual awakening, one that eventually led to his complete recovery and to his vocation, that of administering the ideologies of the late Ernest Holmes. Stay tuned for part 2 of Moses of Burbank, only on You Are Here TV.